Hello everyone, I am Tacet, and today I'm going to be going over the Gems of War surprise event, in which the Lasher is added to the game. We got quite a few interesting things this week. Most noteworthy thing that actually happened pretty recently is we just had the version 4.9 preview the other night. As far as things that's going to be coming, quite a few shop reworks here and there as far as different shop fronts and rebalancing of it. We're also going to be getting a new feature where we can end up exchanging some gems for some daily other things for resources that we generally have not been able to convert gems into in the past. So it'll be interesting to see how that pans out. Most useful thing that's probably coming next patch is supposedly a bug fix for an issue that's been in the game for pretty much forever. So we'll see if it actually has been fully fixed or just partially fixed or what. But they supposedly ended up fixing a bug with whenever you spam Explore or any battle too quickly, and you start to get like a little bit of lag as you keep going further and further. And you guys have probably noticed that if you've done Explore for like a couple hours on end, if you've ever done something like Gnome events before. But supposedly they ended up fixing that lag, either reducing it greatly or completely removing it. So we'll have to see next time around, particularly for a Gnome event, but even just as next patch comes around, how much that's actually been fixed. So hopefully that has been, as that is a pretty drastic beneficial change for quality of life. Anyways, let's get going over this event, as we have quite a few things happening this week. However, the Glory Troop is not really one of them. It does have brown-green, so a few good things in there, but as far as the troop itself, it is not looking too good. It deals some damage to 6 random enemies. This amount of damage is, I guess, okay really early on in the game. However, you do have better boost ratios, and this is with 10% extra stats, so it's not even technically how many stats he has. And he does have good traits, though. He does have immune to stun, 50% score reduction, and a brown. But for how bad his ability is for 12 mana cost, I would not really bother. Maybe if it was reduced down to like 9 or 10, or given some board control, but there's better options out there, and I would not really bother ever, really, with Lasher. You'd get him upgraded just for the sake of Kingdom upgrading, and that's pretty much it, and just ignore him going forward. That is essentially that troop in a nutshell. As far as other things that we have for extra little bonuses, we have 10% to all dwarfs and 10% to all monsters. However, those 2% don't tend to really overlap, as I don't think there's a single monster dwarf in the game, or at least very few. Other than that, if you do use this in PvP or Explore, you do gain 400 additional gold, so you might want to consider putting it into your Explore team. If you're running an Explore team that can run with 3 and just can run a useless 4th slot, you'd probably put this in as the useless 4th slot. And you could end up doing it that way if you so choose, for a little bit of extra gold. Of course, last week we had the World Lore event. With that, we ended up getting all of our medals converted into medals of seasons. If you haven't already gotten some seasons, well, you probably got some already now. So if you didn't already get enough to have 1, 2, 3 medals, however many you want to have, you can end up getting more, of course, from the next World Lore event. And if you have any excess, which quite a few people likely do at this point, you can also use them the exact same way to upgrade troops as you would an Arachnia medal, if you so choose. And it has the exact same value as an epic rarity medal for when fully upgrading your troops. So you'd mostly want to use that on epic troops or onto ultra rares. You could either use it on there's 3 different ways you could use them. You could use one of them on the 3rd perk of a ultra rare troop in order to get it maxed, having that count as all 3. You can use it as on an epic for it to count as a full 1 value for its tokens. So you do 1 and then 2 and then 3 as far as how many epic tokens you would need to get its bronze, silver, and gold medal. And then lastly, you could end up using 3 of them for the first level of a legend in order to get its first perk, so that you don't need to use as many of the legendary ones. So those are basically all the uses for the excess ones, if you so choose. But anyways, we'll go claim this. Obviously, we already have 3, so anything that we do with these will obviously just be going towards upgrading. But for now, they're kind of just going to stay in storage. I'll probably use my Arachnias first, since they're quite a bit more useless, at least in the current state of the game, but making sure to always keep at least 3 in case they do end up buffing it. However, it has not been confirmed that they're actually buffing Arachnia this patch. I was kind of surprised. It might still happen. There's some things with this patch they haven't really made much mention of, so hopefully that's one of the things, but we'll kind of have to wait and see, because as you guys know, Arachnia is pretty useless relative to seasons in the current state of the game right now. Anyways, in other news, as far as the event key drop table, it is probably worth skipping this week. It is Khaziel. Khaziel, always been a bit of an issue. Dwarves have been pretty underwhelming. They kind of came back a little bit about a year and a half ago or so, kind of for Guild Wars and a few other things. as we were getting some buffs and rune priests and stuff like that. But the current state of the game, it's kind of fallen off again. There's still a few good ones here and there. Most noteworthy Apothecary. Apothecary is like this entire kingdom. You can actually get her for free just by getting some levels into the kingdom. However, you can also get her for event keys this week if you want to do it that way, and get her in a pretty small amount since she's only ultra rare, so pretty common from the drop table. But she has one of the best converters in the game. She gets to convert to brown, which is a very useful color. But the most useful thing is that it gets to cleanse all allies while simultaneously having a lot of immunities for herself. Unfortunately, one of those is not immune to silence. But still, it's a really, really great troop. Great for mana accumulation and for cleanse spam. Dwarven Gate's okay, but it's so low rarity that you'd probably have it anyways. Gimlet's occasionally used. It's in power convert. Not really used too often, but it's a green to brown convert, mostly probably for a Guild War counter. Gorgotha's okay, but in the current state of the game, Mountain Crusher as like a Sentinel or a Titan tends to work out better in most situations than Gorgotha, so you don't really need to use Gorgotha that often, even though it technically has one of the high score reductions in the game, only outdone by the Mythic for this kingdom, Stonehammer, which is 80%. However, both of these troops are very rarely used, particularly Stonehammer, mostly because his mana is so high and has a pretty ineffective ability and tends to just mana block. They would have to reduce him down to like 20 mana for me to really personally say he'd kind of be worth it. And even in that situation, it might not be. Gorgotha is generally even better than it, even though it's a whole 5% lower. And other than that, King Highforge, while generally not used that often, will be good for this Thursday event, if nothing else. So if you wanted to grab it for that, you could potentially do that. However, it's very rarely used. It's mostly just for 50% start on dwarves. And of course, dwarves are very rarely used. And I guess the bounty troop isn't that bad. However, it on its own isn't really that good. It's what it gets synergized with is where the value actually comes from. Also, Emperina used to be one of my favorite troops in the game. Unfortunately, it's kind of dead content in the current state of the game, but oh well. But anyways, as far as event keys are concerned, bottom line, probably worth skipping this week. I would not really advise it unless there was just you wanted to get the Mythic just to upgrade his kingdom, or if you were looking for a really key troop that you just wanted to get upgraded more, like maybe more copies of Apothecary, even though that only gives you durability. But if you're using her in a team where you might end up having her die, then the extra durability could be pretty useful. Like if you're using it for something like Delves, for example. Anyways, as far as the next thing, Tower of Doom is this week, of course. Make sure to communicate with your guild what rooms you need to do. For example, we are on 11 right now, so we can go over to our guild, see what setup we have right here, keep some kind of notation system. So right here, we did the power, we did the unlock. We could do a haste if we want to. However, I am currently skipping on haste. That just gives you one sigil, which technically, gives you your sigil back. But you could have a chance of getting Valraven on it, which can increase your sigils. So if you're buying a smaller amount of packs, it's pretty useful. However, if you're buying up all the way to the weapon, which is actually not that bad this week, you would end up getting a little bit better value. But speaking of weapon, where was I going? Right here. So, weapon this week is not bad. It's the same as the one that we ended up getting last month. It's the same kind of premise of all the Doom weapons we'll be getting over the next 4 months, and it's basically the second best weapon in the game as far as Doom weapons are concerned. I would still consider being hesitant on upgrading these, as we don't know what will be coming afterwards. The only 6 that are 100% worth upgrading are, of course, the 6 Doom weapons, one of each color, that do full AoE into Doom Skull conversion. Those are the only Doom weapons I would say are 100% worth upgrading. However, these could be potentially worth it if you so choose. I'm personally not choosing to, just in case we get some rebounds on some of the older ones, or in case if that doesn't happen, we get some newer ones. We still don't know if that will happen after this set, but this might be the last set of Doom weapons. I'm not sure yet. But anyways, I'm still going to be hesitant on upgrading these, but if you were to upgrade any second one in the current state of the game, this series of weapons is technically the second best. What it does is single damage to a single target, and then it does heavy splash, which is 75% damage to the 2 adjacents, which is already a pretty hefty amount of damage. You then get to do a plus 4 additional damage per tempering level. So it ends up stacking to be quite a bit of additional damage. It's 40 to the 1 target that you're hitting, and an additional 30 to the 2 adjacents, meaning that you would gain a total of 100 additional damage from having this fully upgraded, which is quite a bit just for having it upgraded. That's almost more than his base damage. Actually, it is more than his base damage. I didn't even see that. It's only at 36. Well, we might be using a hero class that's not gaining plus 5, but it's pretty much the same as its base damage. The amount of additional damage, you're almost like doubling the amount of damage that it could potentially do just by having it fully upgraded. So pretty nice right there. Also gets to stun all brown enemies, which could be useful in situations, and cleanse all brown allies, which brown teams seem to be pretty popular. Then gets to explode a guarantee 4 gems, and if there happens to be a Doom, an additional 3. Obviously, in most situations, you're not up against a Doom. However, However, that is applicable for at least Tower of Doom, if nothing else. It is technically possible to find them outside of Tower of Doom, though it is very rare to see in PvP or in Guild Wars Defend, as Doom weapons are really good, and you don't want to buff them even more by using a Doom, and Dooms aren't really good enough to justify using them, especially with how popular some Doom weapons are, particularly the full AoE ones that convert into Doom Skulls. But still, these aren't bad, definitely worth considering. I'm personally not going to be, but it is worth, if nothing else, getting it, because it might be the next one that you end up upgrading. If nothing else comes good for these, we'll kind of need to wait till what this next series is. But it costs 500 gems to reach up to that point. I'd say overall it's worth it because you'll be able to help push with your guild to go get the event done. Plus you get this weapon while having to waste diamonds. And there are, of course, other things to spend diamonds on this week, quite a few of which are pretty good and the same cost, like Yagwe. Anyways, we'll be getting over that in a moment. But let's go run a battle real quick. We didn't have any other room, so let's go run the boss room real quick. This is the current one I end up switching to. I did end up running a slightly different one for the lower level range, which we'll be showing once we go to the team videos towards the end of the video. But let's just go roll through this. As you guys know, I love just running double Ketras for this. I am showing some couple cheaper teams too, but I don't know, I've always just loved using double Ketras. Ends up working out pretty well as any Ketras team, and you can also run this with single Ketras. You basically go and get rid of armor tier on, at least in Tower of Doom, you tend to do the first slot, then the second slot, or the third slot, and then the fourth slot. In a normal battle, you would actually do it more so in him just casting in second slot and fourth slot. However, due to the higher stats that are within this game mode, you actually have to do it a little bit differently than how you would normally play out this team. We also have Cockatrice. Cockatrice is a really low rarity troop, only rare, and it's a great utility that I would highly advise using a lot. It's really good at disabling out enemies. So right there, I actually cast that a bit early, but I think we're just going to go for a triple cast and just kill it out that way. Should be fine. Just kill that out, and then all I need now is one more Ketras, as long as he doesn't mess us up here, which we should be good to go on. So we'll go and take that over, get her a little bit of mana. Unfortunately, not all the way up yet, but we just grab that, and that should be enough. And I'm not even going to armor tier him. That should be enough already, and boom. That's all we really have to do. And yeah, normally use them on second slot then fourth slot to kill. This is basically this kind of same premise in that you Yasmine like 2 to 3 times, and then you second slot the fourth slot, and then whatever's still alive, you just clean up with another ability, and pretty much be good to go. But yeah, Cockatrice, great disable, has Entangle, has Mana Drain, and it does that for only 10 mana costs, ends up creating its own color. Main reason you don't see me using it like an excessive amount is just because it's Gem Spawn, and Gem Spawn, of course, isn't as good as Converts and other things. However, it's not bad, and he gets a lot of value for what he is. Anyways, as far as things going on this week, today is Tuesday, and we have ourselves an All-Seeing Eye. That means the cycle of Delves has completely cycled back around. So, yeah, now we'll go through all the cycle now. Next will end up being Hall of Guardians, and then the Sea of Sorrows, which I actually need, because we need that for Pure Faction. And, you know, I'll just keep going forward from there as far as the order in which they were added in the game. Starting all the way back at the very first one of All-Seeing Eye. Though technically Hall of Guardians also came in at the same time. All-Seeing Eye just happens to be beforehand. Other than that, this Wednesday, we're getting Khaziel Pet, which is the brown one that helps you with Guild Wars. It ends up giving, I believe, extra life for Guild Wars. But yeah, it ends up helping you when you use a pure 4x brown team, which is pretty popular. So if you don't already have that, that will help quite a bit. As it works great with Mountain Crusher teams, Mang teams, other similar things, especially since a lot of Browns are Skull Spammers that can synergize with Mang. Other than that, this Thursday, as I mentioned, we have Rune Priest. This will be pretty good with the 50% Mana Start troop. However, it is not required to be able to run it, but definitely would be pretty helpful. And this Friday, we have a Fae event, a Fae Invasions. So we'll be able to have a 3-day Invasions. This will be the second one we've ever had on a weekend. Obviously not the second Invasions we've ever had, but it'll be for Old Oakroot, which is actually one of the better invasion troops. So it should be a pretty easy invasion weekend. Probably one of the quicker ones that we're ever going to have because the shorter amount of duration of it, combined with the fact that it's arguably the best invasion troop ever added to the game. So yeah, it should be a pretty easy event overall. Anyways, let's get into Soulforge stuff, and then we'll get over to teams. So, Soulforge, we have ourselves one good thing pretty much for both categories. For Mythics, we have Grey King. Grey King, while I personally don't care for his playstyle, is a really decent troop. It gets to destroy all gems of a chosen color. All enemies of that color ends up taking true damage for a pretty decent amount. And then they are Mana Drained, Silenced, and Frozen. This is particularly good against teams that run 3 or 4 of the exact same color, since you could disable out almost their entire team and get a lot of damage value for them while disabling a lot of stuff. It also has some freeze, so you don't necessarily need to worry about them extra turning. For example, even if they're only using like 1 or 2 colors, let's say they're spamming a lot of green, you can simply go make sure you go and freeze their greens out so they won't be able to spam that color as effectively. Ends up working great as disable against a pretty wide range of teams, but the more of the same color that they use, the more effective this troop will end up being. It is pretty bad against teams that have a very, very wide variety that are not dependent on extra turning, but aside from that, it tends to be pretty decent against just about anything. Unfortunately, he does have really abysmal traits, so all of his value pretty much comes from his ability, as that's all his value. You're getting almost nothing out of his traits, which is somewhat beneficial, because that technically means you don't need to fully trait him. This troop is pretty much as good with 0 traits as he is with all his traits, so worth considering just completely even skipping over his traits if you're just looking for a mythic that does not necessarily need traits on them, which is beneficial because, of course, it can be pretty expensive to upgrade mythics. If you already have him, could consider Wardbreaker. Nothing else really too insanely good. However, Wardbreaker has a pretty nice ability. The only real big issue with it is it has the second highest mana cost in the entire game, and this really holds him back quite a bit to the point that he tends to not be used too often, but is still a nice explosion. It's kind of like a Gorgulfa with full AoE damage. Speaking of Gorgulfa, Gorgulfa is an event key drop table this week. I was going to say Soulforge, but never mind. He's only an event key drop table, so you can get him there, of course, if you're looking for like a cheaper Wardbreaker kind of like troop. Anyways, other than that, Yagway is the main thing that you would want to craft with your diamonds if you're looking for a legend. I generally do not advise crafting legends. However, Yagway is one of those few exceptions that is 100% worth it if you have 0 copies of him currently. Yagway is absolutely insane for pretty much everything. He doesn't upscale particularly well, even though he theoretically can with like Yasmine's Pride and stuff due to HP boost ratio. However, the main points he's usually used in is PvP, Guild Wars, and oddly enough, Bounty Hunter. Bounty Hunter, I would still say he's arguably the best Bounty Hunter troop if you're only running 3 Bounty Hunter troops. And if you're a bit earlier on in the game and you don't have the damage output to be running it with 4 Bounty Hunter troops yet, he is highly advised to use as your 4th troop. There's a lot of things that can create red as far as Bounty Hunter troops are good, there are a lot of Bounty Hunter troops that can create red that are decently viable that will end up synergizing with him. So definitely worth considering for Bounty Hunter, which I believe was 16 days from now. I think it's 3 Fridays from now, if I'm not mistaken. Somewhere around 3 Fridays from now. But it happens about once every month, or exactly once every month. And definitely worth considering having him if you're still looking for a Bounty Hunter option, if you're still struggling with the game mode. He also gains one of the highest values from being fully metaled as far as legends are concerned, with absolute highest, oddly enough, being another troop that he gets synergized with, Queen Titania, which gains arguably the highest amount of benefit of any legend from being fully metaled, which I still don't have metaled yet, but we'll get around to it eventually. But anyways, yeah, he has a double hit, a double magic steal, a convert. Has a lot of value going into it, and it converts into his own mana, so he can sometimes get double casts. And generally, if you're fighting a similar statted battle, his double cast will actually kill almost every single time, like in Guild Wars and PvP situations, so it tends to be pretty good. It's not used in upscaling, though, very rarely. You can with Yasmine's Pride, but there's better options for it, like Ketras and even Boltorus almost. But I would not advise using it with a upscaling team. You'd most likely want to use other content for that. He's mostly used for, again, similar statted content. Other than that, weapons, pretty useless this week. War and Peace, don't get. I believe you can still get this for free, if I'm not mistaken, from completing out some quest lines, so that one's a complete waste. And other than that, the other ones that are available are pretty bad, with the one exception of Jar of Eyes. Jar of Eyes is only available today, this Tuesday. However, it is really good and definitely worth considering. You can get it in 2 different ways. You can get it either from doing the Delve event today and going and buying up in packs up to that point. I forget how much it is. I believe it's 410 gems that way. However, the much cheaper way, of course, if you're not planning on doing the event much, is just buying it through Soulforge. And you can only buy it this Tuesday today, so I would highly advise doing so. This is the only thing in Soulforge all week that is worth crafting. It's the cheapest of all the things that are worth crafting as well, so double right there. You get even better value. But it's basically like Mountain Crusher, but with a summon, and it creates Blue Storm rather than Brown Storm. It's situational when you would use it. However, in those situations, it tends to be very, very good. It's also a different coloration. It's a green-blue rather than just pure brown. Overall, it's a pretty good weapon. Not the greatest in the game, but it's used in a few teams as a utility. Its most useful aspect, oddly enough, is the fact that it has a resummon, which is applicable to some teams, since you have a really good mana generator combined with a potential resummon. And that's pretty much the main value that we'd use it for if you're not specifically using something along the lines of Mountain Crusher or Essence of Evil, as those two tend to beat this out in many situations. However, this is situationally better, depending on the circumstances and depending on if you actually need to summon. And if you don't need to summon, you tend to use other options. But if you do need to summon, it's one of the only weapons that has that combination of things, so it ends up working out very well. The other two that are available this week, other than Doom Sledge, which I highly advise just buying through the Doom event instead, is the Stone Aegis and the Grudge Keeper. Both of these are pretty useless. However, this one boosts off of Khaziel, so I guess it's somewhat okay. However, Khaziel is still pretty underwhelming, and the other one's pretty much just a useless weapon that you'd never really bother touching much. So overall, make sure you get Jar of Eyes if you don't already have it today. Other than that, the rest of the stuff that's available for the rest of the week that's not exclusive only to today is rather bad, and I would just skip over it. And if you do want Doom Sledge, get it through the Doom event. And that's everything we're there. Anyways, so next order of business, teams. Let's go over a billion different teams. I think we have about 8 here, if I'm not mistaken. I just want to show real quick. I don't think we have any battles I want to do here. I do want to show them. Of course, first up is the one that we were just using. Yasmine's Pride into double Ketras into Cockatrice. Ends up working out pretty well. Just spam the Yasmine Pride. Ketras second, Ketras fourth, dead. And if they're not dead, just keep throwing out pokes. And Cockatrice just keeps disabling them, so you take no damage. This is what I end up using for the earlier set of battles. I end up running a Gaard's Avatar with Sir Quentin. Ever since Sir Quentin was added a couple months ago, ends up working out pretty good to use as an alternative Rowain. Obviously, it's not as good as Rowain, which is kind of odd given that it's a mythic, and Rowain's only a free epic that you get from completing on Forest of Thorns. However, this does end up working to be good for colorations where you can't use Rowain. Obviously, it shares no color with Rowain, so it covers a lot of color options that Rowain generally wouldn't be able to use for, or Suna, or anything similar. And in those situations, particularly the brown color, ends up being pretty good because you don't have other options that do similar other than Gaard's Avatar himself. He's also, I believe, the only mythic for White Helm, so if you want to get 10+ star White Helm, he is required anyways. And I'm just using it with Doomsayer. However, obviously something like Titan would be a little bit better. I'm just trying to get some Doomsayer levels right now. Other than that, if you're looking for a little bit more of a mid-range team, obviously Mang. Mang's always a great option. Mang Cockatrice ends up being a pretty good combo since you get the brown mana accumulation, you have the Entangle, so you don't need to worry about the backfire on Skull Spam that you would use with Mang, and ends up getting mana drain so you don't end up getting poked. You have Keeper of Souls for your Skull Spam, which ends up converting to any thing on the board to skulls, which ends up being pretty good for landing extra turn skulls, which is great for Mang since you kind of want a concentrated amount of extra turns. And Sylvanimora, every single time you hit an extra turn, gives a free Entangle. Obviously, you can't Entangle the Doom itself, however, everything else you will be able to go and Entangle, and this will prevent them from hitting you for any skull damage, which is also applicable with Barrier Spam when you're using Titan, because if they're hitting 0 on you, they will not be breaking your barrier that you get on your level 40 perk. Whenever you take brown and gain barrier, which is, you should always be running with Titan, or literally anything that has that tree, you should always pretty much be running barrier on brown. If it has barrier on brown, you should be running barrier on brown. There's almost no situation, very, very rarely, that you would go otherwise. But that would end up working out pretty well since the Entangle with the 0 attack would prevent them from hitting on Skull, assuming they don't take it 4 times or 5 times, which will allow them to do a small amount of damage, which would hit you on Skull. And other than that, if you're looking for a very low cheap team, this entire team is ultra rare and below. Mang you get at level 23 brown red mastery, if I'm not mistaken. Cockatrice still the same disable, has the Entangle, has the mana drain, has the brown gem spawn, ends up working out pretty well. Something else that it has that's pretty good too, it has the +1 attached to it. Which is really nice because generally with a 10 mana cost troop, you'd want a +1/1 in the colors, particularly the one that's not blocked. In this particular situation, that works out perfectly because it's not blocked on yellow and it has a +1 yellow. So you can generally 2-turn it if you have at least a 50% plus surge chance, which even in early game you could end up reaching pretty quick in the current state of the game. You might not be all the way there yet, but it would still have the chance, obviously, off your surge chance based on how much mastery you have into yellow. Other than that, Diviner ends up creating a bunch of yellow. Also has a bunch of other effects that could happen, like Enchant, Cleanse, Magic Gains. A lot of useful things on it. So overall, pretty nice. You're mostly using it for its yellow mana accumulation, of course. And Dragonian Monk ends up synergizing with that even more. It gets to destroy gems in X shape. A little bit hard to use. However, once you get used to it, it is extremely effective. It's probably one of the hardest board controls to use, but once you get used to it, it definitely pays out in value. And other than that, it buries a random ally for every single yellow gem destroyed, and this will barrier your entire team if you hit 4 yellows, which will be even easier with Diviner putting yellows on the board. So overall, you'll basically have them entangled, so they'll hit 0 on skulls, mana drain, so they won't be able to cast, Diviner, so you'll constantly be able to keep doing that, and Dragonian Monk, so you have barrier, so even if they somehow bypass all your disable, you will they'll just hit on barrier and do nothing. And combine that with something like a Titan, which I keep forgetting to switch all these to Titan. I'm so used to trying to level Doomsayer right now. But obviously this should be used with something like Titan. as Titan can basically be versatile for anything and is highly advised, especially as an early game hero class, due to the fact that it can be used for pretty much any role in the entire game. But yeah, so you have barrier off of your Titan, barrier off your Dragonian Monk, and overall just a lot of things that will help keep you alive. And then you just slowly chip with Mang, which will keep tearing away their armor, converting into attack, which upscales the entire event, and it will be pretty easy for early game to take out. And this team isn't even really that bad or slow either. Should end up working out pretty decently. Same premise can actually be applied to Delves as well, and pretty much any game mode with this team. Really cheap, ultra low, and you could probably have it within your first week or a few weeks of playing the game. So pretty easy team to end up building up. Anyways, as far as Delves, of course, it's All-Seeing Eye, and I feel obligated to just mention Truffle again. I know I probably mentioned this a little bit too much. I so love this team though, but it's still fully applicable to this. You can get the entire event done. You might want to run like a quick Rowan if you really want to for the very early battles. Obviously, something like a Rowan into Leprechaun. You can theoretically even run them for all the battles if you truly want to, up to about 100 or so, 80, 100. But that's as far as you need to go anyways to go complete out the event. I think if it starts falling off around 60 or so, but you can still double cast it if nothing else, or do it with not Yasmine's Pride, do it with her Scare Shield. But overall, I'm just mostly going to be sticking with Truffle probably, except for maybe the very first few battles where obviously Rowan can one-shot very, very quickly. Anyways, other than that, Pure Faction. This is one of the only factions in the game, among one of the only few, or might be the only one, where the actual best team to run is quite literally the exact team you're up against, which seems kind of weird, but it does work for this faction. Which is kind of nice. I wish more factions would have been like this as far as their team synergy. But yeah, you quite literally just copy the final battle. This is the exact final battle that you'd be up against for 500 Pure Faction, and you pretty much just mimic it. The main reason for this is you even do the exact same banner as well. The main reason for this is you want to go and rush up attack steal. This is very important so you don't die to extremely high skull damage, especially if you're running with potion effects. You'll have even higher attack steal, which will allow you to ramp up even quicker. You'll want to beat out the enemy basically in stealing attack. This whole battle is basically steal attack until you win, more often than not. Clarion here is mostly just to transform before theirs does. I used to run with like double Leech, but however, you kind of have to go with one of each because you have to get this convert before they get the convert. If you let them get the convert, they're going to gain way too much value off of it, and you could potentially die from the amount of mana accumulation they get. So it is advised to run this, not because you actually need to be running this for your own team, but you need to be running it to deny the enemy's capability of doing anything with it. Other than that, Watch Mother is mostly just a backup plan so that you can resummon ideally your Clarion Leech. If you're running into a bad situation prior to reaching the final battle, or even in the final battle, you can end up getting a summon of 1 to 2 Clarions by just casting this thing. Also has a little bit of an HP gain, which can occasionally bring you outside a one-shot range if they have enough skull damage to kill you. And then you do a life gain. You can basically do a skull distract and make sure you don't die. So it ends up working out pretty well. He also has a summon a Leaf Storm when he summons an ally, or summons a troop. So that'll be pretty beneficial because you'll be able to get a Green Storm if you do happen to have to replace out one of them. And Xerodar is the main damage that you're going to be doing in combination with a Clarion Leech, which will be getting a bunch of attack. You'll be able to have a double frontline poke, and it also gets to transform all Yell to Skull. Similar to a Clarion, you kind of want to run this mostly to, well, also because it's high damage output, but one of the main reasons you also want to be running is you want to get its mana up very quickly so that you can outpace the enemy's one. And as long as you get both your Clarion cast and your Xerodar cast before the enemy, you're generally in a good position to win. It's those two converts, if the enemy gets it first, can potentially be auto lose. But as long as you get past that point, you should be fine on level 500 Pure Faction, or whatever level you decide to do the Pure Faction on. Obviously, this works for any level, 100, 200, 150, 300. Well, I wouldn't really advise that. The main ones that you tend to run it on are 100, maybe 150, 200, and 500. 100, 200, 500 are the main ones. Main reason being is 100 is the lowest that you could do. That would still give you a benefit. It would give you the pet a little bit earlier. 200, same reason, because all the rewards are based on hundreds. And then anything from there, you might as well just do 500. So that tends to be the way that it can kind of get separated. Other than that, 2 more things to show. Thursday event, Rune Priest. Obviously, just run a high forge if you have 50% mana start for every single thing, since you're restricted to dwarves from Khaziel. So yeah, and then you just run Apothecary, just mana generate like crazy, and then you just keep spamming over and over again with high forges. You can go more of a weapon-related route if you want to, especially a brown one if you want to run like the Doom Brown or something and just feed it up with Apothecary. Really depends on which way you want to go about it. This particular way is obviously just high forge spam, but you can also do like the club spam with the Doom weapon if you happen to have it. Just figured I'd show something a little bit cheaper for people that don't have the Doom weapon, of course. And this whole team uses no mythics, of course, because the mythic for this area is horrifically bad. However, do keep in mind you actually do have a small chance of getting it off these packs. While the chance is excessively low, it is theoretically still possible, as the mythic for this kingdom is a dwarf from Khaziel. So you theoretically have a chance through the event. Kind of like how we got the Queen of Sin from the other event last week. You could theoretically get the Stonehammer from this one, despite the chance being excessively low. And other than that, we have invasions, as I mentioned this week, with Old Man Oakroot. One of the reasons why he's such a good invasion troop is not only does he still do the really massive amount of invasion damage, but he also gets to go and eliminate all their armor. So he's basically like a Mang into a one-shot. He's almost like... oh gosh, what's that one thing called? Why do I already forget its name? The one green-purple that boost ratios off of magic. He's almost like that with that armor tier that ends up basically just one-shotting. It ends up working out very, very well. Arguably the absolute best invasion troop in the game, so this should be a pretty easy invasion event. Just run double of him because he's so good. Mountain Crusher for mana accumulation, Leprechaun for mana accumulation. Pretty standard combo Mountain Crusher to Leprechaun. And yes, you are allowed to use Leprechaun. The restriction should be Fey, as he's a Fey and it is invasion, so it tends to do it based on typing, or always does it based on typing. So it should be a Fey restriction, which does allow you to use Leprechaun, which of course is one of the best mana generators in the game. And combining that with Mountain Crusher, you should pretty much auto-win. You can theoretically do any hero class you want with this. I just obviously did Titan there. However, you could theoretically use pretty much any hero class in the game if you want to level it, as the Leprechaun alone should almost be enough mana accumulation for your team. And you also have a +3 total, not even counting your hero, if it has an additional benefit for that, because you just already have so much. You could even run it with a hero class that has Greenstorm if you truly want to, and really go all out with it. But it really just depends on which way you want to roll it. If you want to play it to safer end, or which way you want to end up revamping the team, or even just what hero class you want to level, of course. As we'll probably be doing Doomsayer, just to get it leveled a little bit. So we've been trying to get that up to 100 as our next level 100. And now with no more hero classes coming into the game anymore, that should be a little bit easier as well. But anyways, guys, I will catch all of you guys later. If you still have any other questions, feel free to leave it in the comment section below. We'll, of course, be streaming every single night at our normal time, 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, and we'll be messing around with the Tower of Doom. Also, this Thursday is the 4-year anniversary of this channel, oddly enough. We've been doing YouTube for 4 years as of this Thursday, doing these weekly event videos every single week. So that's a nice little milestone. We're going to be streaming pretty much all day, playing a billion different games. How many exactly, I don't know. Probably like 10, maybe? I'm not sure. But obviously, Gems of War will be one of them, and we'll be messing around with quite a few other games on that day. So we'll have a lot of fun that day. Make a day out of it. Not sure exactly how long we'll be streaming for, but we'll probably start around like 7, 8 a.m. or so and go for almost 24 hours. It's not exactly a 24-hour stream, especially since YouTube tends to get pretty weird if you stream like above 11 hours. So we'll probably split it into like almost double 2 11s, a little bit break in between, and probably do something like that for the Thursday then, for its 4th anniversary of the channel. But anyways, guys, I hope you all have a wonderful, wonderful week. Stay safe from the virus, please, and practice social distancing. And I will catch all of you guys very soon, and hopefully version 4.9. No official date, but it could be as early as today and as late as probably about 2 weeks from now. They tend to do it on Tuesdays, so it's either today, next Tuesday, or the following Tuesday. It's not confirmed, but somewhere within that time frame is likely the time in which we will be getting 4.9 patch, and we still don't know even everything about it yet, so we'll be able to get more info once it actually gets launched and we get to see the patch notes, since they didn't really mention too much on their previous stream, as they kept a couple things on the down low. But we'll know them soon. Anyways, guys, we'll catch you later. Thanks so much for watching, and have a wonderful week. Goodbye, everyone!